Hi, this is the Social Distance Reading Series, a project of the Vermont School and Green Mountain Review. I'm Susan Barba, and the book I'll be reading from today is GEODE, published by Black Sparrow Press. Thank you for joining me in Wanalancet, New Hampshire. I am the author of two poetry collections, GEODE and my first book, Fair Sun, which was published by David Godine, and was awarded the Anahit Literary Prize from Columbia University. I've received fellowships from the MacDowell Colony and GEODE, and my poetry has been published in Poetry Magazine, the New York Times Magazine, the New York Review of Books, Raritan, the New Republic, and elsewhere. My poems have been translated into Armenian, Romanian, and German. I work as an editor with New York Review Books. So I'll begin with a quote that I came across today by the artist Jenny Odell, and I thought this really describes perfectly what I was attempting to do in the first section of my book, which consists of a series of poems titled Exhibit, and they are numbered. So I'll read the first poem, Exhibit 1, but before I do that, I'd like to read this quote. The artist creates a structure, whether that's a map or a cordoned off area, that holds open a contemplative space against the pressures of habit and familiarity that constantly threaten to close it. So I want you to think of these poems as those kinds of structures. And appropriately, the first poem is a map, or describes a map, asks you to imagine a map. Exhibit 1. Start with a base map, unlabeled terrain, in shaded green and ochre, nude relief, cool continental mass bathing in blue, a face whose features now are visible, unannotated, apolitical, as if a mighty snow had settled there and muffled every static line and letter, earth as naked as the moon, but full of lively color from the fissured west into the placid belly of the country, eastward over Quartzite Ridge, Carbonate Valley, into southwest trending S-curves up the coast, a range 2,000 miles, 250 million years of mountain, formed in 3 successive waves of rock, uplifted and depressed, and in the west it's just begun. 6 billion acres under time, under stress, and stretches of content, reserved for a duration, blue-green grid of constant revolution. Now I'll read Exhibit 4, which comes from the desert, so a very different climate. And I was in the Mojave in the spring and saw the acacia flowers blooming. Exhibit 4. In the acacia's arms, the red cranes roost. The desert is creosote in a clay pot. The clarity of a single plant, potted in sand, almost as old as dust, mulched with pebbles that remember their late rivers. The plant is seconds old, green stripling in the gnomic earth. This is a longer poem. The title is Ore, and that's Ore, O-R-E. Ore. Subterranean sounding, rock unsteady, fissuring from roke. Has it begun, the new sedimentary sentence, our influence on rock? Aren't we colonizing time, reducing the stratigraphic record to our hour-minute hands? Can't Earth, the rock of it, remain intractable? In the multi-volume registers of rock, H. sapiens is the latest one-line entry, but the mineral alphabet does not begin with anthropos. It begins with dust, sun, water, mud, bits of fin, claw, mandible, deposits in the bank of time. Darwin compared our knowledge of the structure of the earth with chickens scratching in the corner of a 100-acre field. Levi-Strauss proposed the study of anthropology, our hurry to disintegrate, blithely breaking down all structure. Last century men established methodologies, observing, measuring, surveying, mapping, drilling, magnifying, heating, pressurizing, acidifying, liquefying, refining, defining, using rock into bread. Rock hounds, lives spent out of doors, deciphering lithos into lingua, created a field, geology, or how to read the rock column of time. In words and rocks, the order is the meaning. Earth, the story they're breaking, legible only if intact, not hoarded, sold to speculators, prospectors, petrochemical lords, nor ignored in the orogenies of daily news, but graven, here, in a field of antiquity, of ore and meteor, rusting outside a rock shop just past Zion. Dispersal. Driving the thruway back and forth that time of year when the twin Samaras spun and sun found harbor in the leaves, she felt the light slip the more she strove. Days ricocheted from loss to loss. She read, tidal stress is to tremor as swarm is to quake. She read, ExxonMobil plans to triple its bet on hottest shale field in the U.S. She drove and drove. She snapped at the small ones in the back. She bracketed misgiving. She read, strong risk of crisis as early as 2040. She was not speaking to her neighbors who'd raised the forest next door for sport. She'd hoped for equanimity over time, but there was only heat. Regarding space, she wanted nothing more than a margin undisturbed. Regarding time, she wanted never to accept it. The trees succumbing to storms with proper names, the grass succumbing to polypropylene. She planted protests, but they were numbered, and the mayhem was innumerable. She and I and you and they and he, seeds, seeking more than a life in the wind. So here's another longish poem, and it's titled Letter from Gaia. Gaia in Greek mythology is Mother Earth. Letter from Gaia. I am writing this in minuscule from the foot of the old hills, while marauders uproot the last impediments to progress. Do they think I am resigned, incapable of anger, that I orbit the sun submissively out of some dark planetary passivity, that my amorality, as they call it, is intrinsic, just my nature? Perhaps. How long I've kept from even lisping it, but simmered, wept, and shuddered. How can I turn my back on my children? They want nothing less than my absolute subjugation. How long it took me to prepare this place for them. They know something of my art, even if they cannot imagine me staring down infinitude, racing to keep the darkness from their lives. What I have made is what I am. Rain, wind, dirt, light, grasses, sedges, clouds, rivers, oceans, glaciers, deserts, waves of sand, waves of water, seabirds, songbirds, birds of prey, volcanoes, fire, flame, sparks, eddies, avalanches, beetles, bees, mice, moths, forests, tundra, mountains, mushrooms, wildflowers. My materials were time and liquid water. They have bagged the leaves, set forests, rivers on fire, broken ground. They have walked hand in hand, slept in each other's arms. They have set down flags to snap in the wind. They have laid grids over the land. They have lit fireworks, dropped bombs and mothers of bombs, painted in caves, laid paving stones, peered through viewfinders, through scopes. They have caught me in the crosshairs. They have seen their own skin, their very lashes reflected back at them, the giants. Their fingerprints are tiny spiral jetties. Their footsteps pass and pass. Their bodies have no armor. The torsos of their young are blameless. I want to remember how it was. Do you remember the trilobites? They were the first here who could see. They once had eyes. They are embalmed in stone. And once upon a time, my children were wise and wild and listened. They have turned the rain to acid. They have named Superfund sites. They have forced their young to drink lead, breathe ash. They have laced the land they grow their rice in with arsenic. They have contaminated the water they catch their fish in with mercury. They have drawn precious metals out of the ground with cyanide. They have sacrificed their sons to the dirt for diamonds, the sea for pearls. They have manufactured poisons, nerve gas, atom bombs, agents of biological warfare. During exercises in which they practice killing each other, their brains have been shaken by the concussive waves of their weapons. They have lost their bearings, and they multiply and multiply. Once they cleaved to me, now they disregard me. They are addicted to ephemera, which profit them nothing. How little they have, how lean their margin. So I'll conclude by reading a short poem titled Practice. Practice. Your anger is a scrim clouding your vision. You see, you hear, and then you testify, you judge. Write the necessary elegies, the songs of temporary fury. Human seasons are as leaves, not oaks. See what forest has arisen from the rot. Allow yourself to be as generous. Oak, whose girth exceeds my reach, forever I am at your feet, looking up. So these poems again are in GEODE, which was published by Black Sparrow Press, and you can find copies through Black Sparrow Press, which is an imprint of David GEODE, online at godine.com. And you can look up Susan Barba, and you'll find GEODE as well as my first book, Fair Sun. If you enjoyed these poems, you might also enjoy the book by the artist Jenny Odell, whom I quoted at the beginning. And her book is titled How to Do Nothing, published by Melville House Press last year. Thank you so much for joining me, and please be sure to check out my Q&A online with Green Mountain Review online. Thanks a lot. Take care, everybody.